Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Walk. I'm your host, Joshua Ingram. It is Monday, January 31st, year of our Lord 2022. And this is going to be episode number 59. So, I guess I want to start with the main thing that's been on my mind here recently. So for the last several months, I've been going through some, I guess comparatively it's not a big deal, but I've been dealing with some financial struggles, and it's hard to seek any sort of sympathy or to actually see a positive outcome because I've brought it upon myself. And so basically, I put myself in a financial hole, and I had to take out some large loans, or large for me anyways, probably not for a regular person, and then I've got some credit card debt too, and I moved recently, and so my expenses went up quite a bit, and that all kind of happened at the same time. Like I had prayed and hoped that I could move. I was living in the Twin Cities, not in an ideal situation. I just wanted to get out of the cities, and I had been praying for a long time that I'd be able to make the move. And then it all just kind of came together suddenly. It was really quick, but it happened at the same time that I had taken on these large loans. And so when I computed the math, on what my monthly expenses would be, I thought, well, it's going to be doable. It'll just be tight, a little bit tighter than I anticipated. On a month to month basis, I'm probably, I don't have a lot of wiggle room. Basically, I'm left with maybe $100 or $200 per month more than my expenses. So if anything comes up, there's going to be trouble. And so that's what I've been worrying about and stressing about, is like, man, if anything happens, if I need to do car repairs or get a new car, or if any sort of unexpected expense comes up, I'm going to have a really hard time dealing with that. And so on the one hand, I've been trying to be content with my situation, but the fact that I brought it upon myself adds anxiety to it, because it's like, man, is this just going to have to be a hard life learned lesson that the Lord's taken me through, or just so that stress is in the back of my mind, but then I'm trying to be content in it, because the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And he always provides. Sometimes it's not the provision that we want, but he does provide. And I've preached that message a lot to my friends and family, my small group, expressing that money isn't really something I concern myself with. I don't have ambitions or worldly desires. I don't seek to gain. I'm not motivated that way. And I've always looked at money as it just comes and goes, and you just do whatever's in front of you, eat, drink, and be merry, so to speak. But also trying to be a wise steward. But anyways, so I've been trying to be content in that and not stressed. And then here recently, my car is more than likely on its last legs. I've got some sort of radiator leak, or not leak. The coolant keeps disappearing, and there's no visible leak. And so I'm not a mechanic, but when I do some research on that, it seems like that's a pretty bad thing. It could be like a gasket or something, a major repair. And so I'm looking at that, kind of stressing out, going, man, I don't have the money for that. How am I gonna deal with this, and just kind of hoping and praying that the situation will resolve itself. Um, but so that's a stress. And then just the other day, this past weekend, I went down. I had some friends spending the night, so I went down to my storage locker to get an air mattress and some extra blankets, and discovered that all of my camping gear that I've collected over the last few years was stolen out of my storage locker. So I had approximately $1,800 worth of camping gear that I've purchased since like 2017, 2018. I had a few tents, a hammock, a nice backpacking bag, some water purification things, just all the tools and necessities that you would need for camping, and specifically for backpack camping, because I don't like going to campgrounds. I don't like being surrounded by people. I like to hike out into the middle of nowhere and just kind of set up. And so all of my stuff was stolen, and that stressed me out because I really look forward to camping every summer. I try to go out to the woods as much as possible, a couple times per month during the warmer months. And so now it's like, man, I can't afford to replace this stuff. So now that joy that I had in life is taken from me. And so just these things compounding, these things piling up on top of each other have had me a bit perplexed. Like I say, I'm trying to stay calm because I've always preached to people not to stress. Like when the storms came, when Jesus and the disciples were on the boat, what did Jesus do? He was sleeping. He slept through the storms. And to me, that's the kind of attitude we're supposed to have when the storms of life come. We're supposed to just take a step back and relax. Don't stress about it. Don't worry about it. Things are going to work themselves out. The Lord takes care of His people, and you might have to go through some hardships, but you're going to come out on the other end. And I believe that's, Paul learned that too. Paul said he learned to be content in all things through trial and through the process. He learned that no matter what he goes through, there's an end result. You're going to come through it. The sun's going to keep rising until the Lord takes you home. You're going to be provided for. You're going to wake up. You're going to continue on. Things are going to be okay. And so I've been trying to rely on that and not stress out about the finances, not stress out about the car, not stress out about the stolen property. I've also, I suspect I know who stole the stuff. The way it was done points towards it being somebody in my apartment complex. It was done in a sneaky way. Without leaving any evidences of breaking and entering. They had to have taken the door off the hinges and gotten in and stolen stuff. So obviously it's somebody who felt comfortable to take their time. And I have a few neighbors that look very suspicious, and I've been cautious about them since I first moved in. And so suspecting that it was them that did it, I'm trying not to have any bitterness in my heart. I'm trying not to have any anger towards them. The Lord brought me into this apartment complex for a reason. And if it is a dark atmosphere, I hope I can be a light, and seeking vengeance or being bitter and giving attitude towards them isn't going to help anything. So I want to have a righteous attitude towards this and just keep trusting the Lord, keep striving for contentment, so to speak. So I guess I really don't have an end point here. I just wanted to discuss it because that's really what's been on my mind a lot, is just the struggles that I'm going through, and financially speaking, and trying to maintain an attitude of trust and an attitude of contentment. And like I was telling my brothers and sisters in the faith here, I'm like 70-30. I'm 70% content, But there is in the back of my mind this anxiety, this worry that I'm trying to get rid of, because we have to trust the Lord. The hard part is when you feel like it's your decisions that have caused it. It's like, I did this, therefore I have to reap the consequences. And so it's hard to trust when that's happening. Or not trust. It's hard to remain content. And so I guess I'm just striving to do that, to be content, to be satisfied. My bills are paid. I have clothing, I have food. I should be content with what I have. I shouldn't look forward to tomorrow and worry about the car breaking down. Just worry about today, getting through today, and being satisfied. And so that's where my mindset is at. That's where my heart's at. I'm trying to maintain that attitude of peace and contentment. All right, so another thing I want to talk about is my church attendance lately. My entire saved life, I've never really had a home church. I've never felt comfortable in a church. I've never felt like I belonged. Not saying that I don't feel like I belong as if I'm not worthy of being there, or I'm not a Christian. I've just never felt it was necessary. I've always seen fellowship with the saints as necessary, but attending a modern church, I just, to go and listen to a sermon and then leave, there's not a whole lot of interpersonal connections. There's not a whole lot of, when I read the scriptures, I see church differently. I see church as a family, people coming together as brothers and sisters in the faith and sharing their faith, sharing their struggles, spurring one another on towards good works, speaking good word to each other, edifying one another, building each other up, protecting each other, watching each other's backs, warning each other of sinful behaviors or destructive behaviors. I've seen that as church. Like, what has become church nowadays is, Sunday morning you go, you sing some hymns, you listen to a guy preach for an hour, and then you go home. And it just always felt like that's not what church is supposed to be to me. And so I never really felt called, I guess you would say, to sit in any particular church or to go on a regular basis. But I've had that as my prayer, as in my heart. Like, I want to be a part of a body. I want to have those relationships. I want to have a local body that I can connect with. And so I've prayed for that for years, sometimes in tears, because I've searched out churches, and in the past, I would find some sort of doctrine or belief that they held to that I just couldn't submit to. I couldn't say, yeah, I agree, I agree with that, or I couldn't find a way to say, even though we're in disagreement on this, I guess I'll just stay for the sake of unity. I just always felt like a lot of things that are really important to me, the church itself, through its doctrinal statement or the pastor, preached different beliefs or a different idea, and I couldn't submit to that. I couldn't be like, I didn't want to be a part of that. If I disagreed with something, it was like, I don't want to give the impression that I'm okay with what's being taught here. And a lot of people would say, well, those are secondary issues. As long as the gospel's right, stick it out. And I couldn't do that. Truth was so vital, so important to me, that I just couldn't accept the differences. It was hard for me, and I don't know if that's an immature thing. As you mature and you learn to just accept the differences, the Lord grants knowledge. If I'm wrong on something, the Lord has to open my eyes to that. If somebody else is wrong on something, the Lord needs to open their eyes to that. As long as we're in agreement on the foundationals, as long as the church isn't heretical, we should be able to agree to disagree. And In the past, I always thought, well, no, we're supposed to be of one mind. If we're in disagreement on something, we need to wrestle that out until the truth is found, and we need to settle on that truth. And I just didn't see a whole lot of that going on. So I stayed out of churches for the most part. I would go here and there to various different churches, but I would never say that I was a member or comfortable being a part of it. And so I prayed, like I say, for years and years and years for the Lord to bring me somewhere where I felt like I fit in. And I'm hoping that the Lord has done that now. Since I've moved to this new town, I've been going to this one church over here on a regular basis, 2, 3 times a month. Um, and I've enjoyed the preaching. I felt a peace about it. And something occurred to me the other day that made me think, maybe this is it. Because when I don't go now, I feel bad about it. I feel like, man, I should have went. I missed out on that. I don't want the pastor to feel bad that he looks out in the crowd and he doesn't see me there. I know that could probably be very discouraging to a pastor. And so on the Sunday mornings when I don't go, I feel bad about it. It's like, man, I should have been there. I feel like I'm missing out. And so you take that, and then the fact that I feel comfortable there, even though I haven't made any connections, I haven't really talked to anybody other than the pastor. Um, I haven't developed that sense of community there yet. But in spite of that, I feel comfortable there. I like going there, and like I say, I've enjoyed the sermons so far. Um, so I'm hoping, that that's a sign from the Lord, that this peace that He's given to my heart, this desire to go to church, and this bad feeling when I don't go. I'm hoping that's the Lord showing me that this is going to be my church. This is where I need to be. This is where I should fit in and get involved. And so I'm hoping for that. I'm trying to take my time. I want to start a Bible study in my home. On Friday nights, and I'm trying to be patient in that. I feel like I can't really bring that up to the pastor now and say, hey, would it be okay if I post something on the bulletin or whatever saying Bible study at my house? Because he doesn't really know me. He doesn't know my doctrine. He doesn't know my beliefs. He doesn't know where I stand. He doesn't know really if I'm born again or not. He just knows he sees this guy on Sundays in the pews. So how could he entrust me to lead a Bible study? And so I'm trying to be patient in that and just wait. It's kind of hard because in the meantime, I feel like I'm sitting here doing nothing. Part of my gifts and calling, I believe, is a gift of teaching. And so I desire to do that. And sitting back and waiting is difficult. I greatly desire to get involved and do something. I want to be doing something with the gifts and talents that the Lord has given me. And so a period of just sitting back and waiting is kind of odd or difficult. But it's nice to notice those feelings about the church. Like I want to be there. I want to go. And that's never occurred in my life before. Like I say, I've never felt that peace of sitting in the pew. I've never been comfortable. And so hopefully it's an answered prayer. Hopefully this is something permanent or semi-permanent. Who knows where the Lord's going to take us in the future, but for the time being, I'm hoping that this is where He's led me and this is what He wants me to do. And hopefully some doors will start opening. I'll be able to develop some relationships, get to know the pastor one-on-one, share our testimonies, share our desires and gifts and talents, and go from there. But it's just unique for me. For a lot of Christians, I know it's probably not. A lot of Christians just get up and go to church every Sunday and don't have any issues. But my entire saved life, I haven't had this. And so it's a very unique thing. Another thing I was thinking about the other day, and this is another one of those thoughts that I think about quite often, But it just occurred to me again, I was sitting there wondering, like, why have we as a church, why is it that we have adopted this language where we refer to hell as eternal fire, eternal torment? Like, why do we say that so frequently? Why do we say, if a person's lost, they're going to hell and hell is forever? Like, I don't see that in the scriptures. And so here's what I mean by that. I'm not denying eternal torment, but I see a clear distinction between hell and the lake of fire. And I take that from in the book of Revelation, one of those last chapters there. I can't remember where it's at, maybe like 20 or 21. The scriptures specifically say that hell and death are cast into the lake of fire. So there's a distinction there. The lake of fire is not the same thing as hell. Hell is a different thing. And hell has a finality to it. Hell ends. Hell at the end is tossed into the lake of fire. Now, the lake of fire being eternal, that's a different discussion. But I feel like we should be accurate in our language. And so when we're preaching, when we're warning people about hell, I feel like we shouldn't refer to hell as being eternal. We should refer to the lake of fire as being eternal. Hell seems like a distinct thing, and I think we have to be specific in our language. Hell, it seems like, is a holding cell of sorts. Like when a person dies in a lost state, they go to hell. Lazarus and the rich man, Jesus told us that parable there about the rich man being in hell, lifting his eyes up, being tormented, have just wanting one drip of water. And I think like the book of Job describes hell as like being bars, being like a cell in the earth, in the depths of the earth. And so to me, when I look at this, when I think it all the way through, it seems like hell is a holding cell, that a person in a lost state dies and they go to hell. And hell is a place of torment. The demons are bound with chains and everlasting darkness. There's heat and a lack of water. There's torment there. It's not a pleasant thing. And I've heard testimonies, whether or not you can give any credence to it or not, of people who say they've seen hell or gone to hell and been brought back to life. And some of those testimonies, or at least one that I can specifically think of right now, says that it's in the center of the earth, in the core of the earth. And I can't make a dogmatic statement. Scriptures don't tell us exactly where hell is, but that makes sense to me. It makes sense that when a person dies in a lost state, they descend into the earth. They descend down to hell. And they're then in hell, in torment, until the last day. And at the last day, it says hell will give up its dead. So all the dead will be raised and gathered before the throne of God. And books will be opened with records of everything you've done, said, thought. And judgment will be given. A guilty sentence for those outside of Christ. And then they're tossed into the lake of fire, where the smoke of their torment ascends forever, the scriptures say, where the worm never dies. So there's a sense of eternality there. There is a sense of forever in those statements. But I would say that it's more accurate to say that that's the lake of fire, that hell is a temporary holding cell where the lost go until the day of judgment. And so if people are hoping that there will be an end of it, that's a false hope, because you just go from the holding cell to the real deal. You go from the holding cell to the lake of fire. And the holding cell is going to last a long time anyways. Even if the Lord were to return today, there's 1,000-year millennium period. There's 1,000 years between the return of the Lord and that judgment seat, the judgment, the throne room, where the books are open. There's 1,000 years between the return of Christ and that. So at the very minimum, even those that die at the return of Christ, they're going to spend 1,000 years in that holding cell. 1,000 years in torment with demons and no water, no comfort. And then at the end of those 1,000 years, they'll be raised and brought before the throne room. And then it doesn't get any better. Then they get that judgment day, and then they go to the lake of fire. And so I suppose people would say, well, we're just nitpicking over language, but I think language is important. I think it's important for us to be clear on biblical truths. I think we have to be as true in our speech as possible. And so for us to refer to hell as eternal, I think it is wrong. Like I say, refer to the lake of fire as eternal, but that's a distinct thing from hell. I don't know why it bothers me. I guess, like I say, it's just important for us to be as true in our words as possible. And I don't believe hell is eternal. I believe hell is that temporary holding cell where at the minimum you're going to spend 1,000 years there, and then you're going to the lake of fire. So I think that distinction needs to be made. All right, so that's what I got for you guys this week. As always, I truly appreciate you listening. I love you, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you next time.